Morality is as objective as gravity. Yes, hot take. All right, first of all, most people are going to struggle with this because they have differing perspectives on what it means to be objective. Well, obviously, I have the correct perspective, so let me tell you. Objectivity is not the same thing as having an absolute rule, right? Most people, they think, thou shalt not steal. That's objective morality. No, that's absolute morality. That's universal morality. That's not objective morality. Objectivity is relating to stance independence in an epistemic sense, right? So this is third-party verifiability, right? So this is something that is discoverable. It's multiple minds, multiple people can calculate and all land on the same calculation together. They're like, yeah, my calculation, your calculation, they all agree. Like all of these different perspectives, they all agree that there is a truth, there's a fact about the matter that transcends all of these individual minds, right? That's objectivity. Gravity is objective because everyone can calculate it and can land on the same answer. Morality is the same way. Morality is stance independently verifiable, just as gravity is. All right, so why is this confusing? Well, I think it's because both morality and gravity, they both have subjective components that are mixed in. So they actually operate in a transjective space where they are simultaneously subjective and objective. What? Gravity is subjective? Impossible. Of course it's subjective because the applied gravity is relative to the context. It's relative to the situation. Each celestial body has its own gravitational force of different strengths. The Earth, it has an attractive force of 10 meters per second squared. The Moon has an attractive force of 1.6 meters per second squared. Jupiter has an attractive force of 25 meters per second squared. Thou shalt only attract by 10 meters per second squared. No, that's absurd. There are no absolute rules that every single planet must follow. Each planet has its own stance-dependent gravitational force. And when you try to calculate gravity, you have to include the subject. Which subjects are involved? Is Jupiter involved? Okay, let's include Jupiter's perspective. Is the Earth involved? Okay, let's include Earth's perspective. We have to add all of the bodies to the equation to get the objective gravity. So, just as gravity, the applied gravity is context dependent, applied morality is also context dependent. Thou shalt not lie. Morality is not based on these universal rules. Based on a certain context, we calculate don't lie. Based on a different context, we calculate you should lie. So this is the difference between applied morality and applied gravity seeming somewhat subjective, but there are these meta rules that are governing the process, right? The applications are relative, context dependent, based on these different subjective perspectives involved, but we have to zoom out. When we zoom out both morality and gravity, we can see that there are objective patterns that are governing the movement of these bodies. The laws of physics objectively govern the movement of celestial bodies. And game theory, the mathematics of game theory, is how we objectively calculate and predict the movement of agentic bodies, right? Agentic bodies and celestial bodies, they're both moving through space and time based on patterns. We zoom out and we can see the patterns and they're objective. Objection. If morality is so objective, why don't you just calculate it and show us the answers? Prove it. Or why else is there all this disagreement? Isn't all this moral disagreement evidence that we can't all just agree on a single calculation? Good objection, but this objection also applies to gravity. Because with the three-body problem in gravity, we have the laws of physics start to become so complex that it's almost impossible to calculate the correct answer when there are only three celestial bodies interacting. That's the three-body problem. So as we incorporate more and more celestial bodies to the equation, it becomes more and more difficult to calculate the correct answer. So does the difficulty of calculating gravity mean gravity is now subjective? No, of course not. Because despite the difficulty in calculating gravity, it still follows these objective rules and these meta rules and these meta patterns, right? These meta principles are objectively governing gravity at every step of the way, despite the complexity of the calculation. This means gravity is objective in principle implying if we were good enough at the calculation, we could prove it is objective, right? So morality is the same way, except moral agents, right? Agentic bodies are even more complex in their trajectories than gravitational bodies, right? So if gravity becomes infinitely complex with just 3 celestial bodies, imagine how complex morality is when we include thousands of social agents all working together in these complicated networks. Of course we struggle to calculate the correct answer. Of course we have moral disagreement. But that does not mean that morality is immune to the meta patterns of game theory. I mean, just appreciate for a second how subjective gravity is at the zoomed in layer. Every celestial body, it has its own unique attributes. It has its own position in space-time, its own stance, even from a relativistic stance. Right? Literally, the word relativity, right, is involved in gravity. And they have their own degrees of power in force, and they have their own trajectories or goals. And so all of these things are individual attributes that are unique to each individual celestial body. And these individual attributes are relevant into its trajectory. Where is this celestial body going to go? Well, the moon is going to go one way and the earth is going to go a different way. So does it mean gravity is subjective because everyone gets to go their own way? No, because there are patterns that are governing all of these subjectivities. So we just have to understand that when we're talking about the objectivity of gravity, we're not talking about an objective substance. We're talking about epistemically objective. There's predictability because we have the meta patterns. And the same thing exists with morality. There's no moral substance floating around in the universe. It's not ontological, it's epistemic. We have the game theory. We have the mathematics to calculate the trajectory of agents. The laws of physics give us objective predictions for the movement of celestial bodies, and game theory gives us objective predictions for the movement of agents.